the entire city of Vizima. Inn. The inn in the outskirts was established to cater to the needs of travelers and merchants headed for Vizima. The owner has surrounded with a high palisade. Although the inn doesn't feature extravagant comforts, it is a safe place to spend the night and eat a meal. The innkeeper also offers a wide selection of alcohol. It is a favourable meeting place for inhabitants of the outskirts, so there's always someone to talk to or dice with. Mage Tower. The secret gates recounts the story of a mage who built the tower in the swamp. Direct the building on marshland, the sorcerer had to tame the elements of earth, protect the tower with spells. While delving into secrets magic, the sorcerer trifled with forces of nature. The mage was betrayed by his beloved, magical cataclysm ensued, catastrophe struck. Mage perished, and all his works were sealed in the tower. Ain Sophair is a tome that details the very tangled manner, where to look for the Sephiroth, stones which open the tower in the swamp. The first stone is with a wise person. Second will come with freedom. The third stone is in possession of someone wealthy, or a merciful person has the fourth. 3 stones are guarded by a girl, a mother, and an old hag, and they can be attained through sacrifice and prayer. The 8th Sephiroth is hidden underground in the swamp, guarded by dead. The 9th must be obtained by fighting its guardian, while the 10th and final will be rewarded for tenaciously seeking the truth. Non-human district, so not destiny. A separate area has been designated for elves and dwarves in Vizima's temple quarters. Members of those races live and work there. Those who venture into the non-human district do so at their own risk. The sewers beneath Vizima were built in an age where an ancient elven city stood on this site. Not much of their original greatness remains, but they still serve their function well. Connecting the temple quarter and the trade quarter, they carry off sewage from the entire city, rendering the stench of the gutters a little less overbearing. The sewers have recently become infested with monsters, especially drowners. Apparently, cockatrice also made its lair there. Secluded and rarely visited, the sewers have become an ideal refuge for the worshippers of the forbidden lionhead spider, of the forbidden cult of the lionhead spider. Shawnee's house. It's easy to find Shawnee's house, as is located by the statue of the rod of Esquipuus. I can't remember. The building is owned by an old lady with a difficult personality. One has to curry favor with her to get inside. St. Lebioda's Hospital. The hospital, named after the prophet Lebioda, was set up in the former temple of Meliteli. To this day, a triple-bodied statue of the goddess stands inside. Nurses and novices work there, trying to help those struck by the plague. This is not a pleasant place. It is filled with the moans of the suffering and the stench of their excretions. Those who do not survive the disease, meaning the overwhelming majority, are thrown into a pit behind the hospital. Every once in a while, the bodies are burned to prevent the plague from spreading. Recently, the Order of Flaming Rose placed the hospital under its protection. Swamp. Across the lake from Vizima lies a large area of marshlands, which is home to small human communities, but also to various monsters. It's not safe there, even during the day. A drowner or a bloodseeker can spring up from the murky water at any moment. The casual traveler should be mindful of the misleading will-o-wisps, with a tendency to lure unwary adventurers further and further into the swamp, to become mired in mud and perish. To reach the swamp, one must hire ferrymen at the dike in Vizima and take the boat to cross the lake. A group of lumberjacks works deep within the marshlands, making money selling lumber to Viziman craftsmen. They're led by the dwarf named Yarn Bolt, who rules a small community with an iron fist. The swamp is home to brick makers who make their living excavating and firing clay. Theirs is a small secluded village where life proceeds at its own pace. A somewhat crazed woman named Vasca leads them. The swamp is a place where man must bow before nature in all its tangled grandeur. That's why druids have settled there, establishing a sacred grove with the tree of life at its center. The disciples of nature allow no violence within the grove, where they tend to sick animals, even taking in wounded dryads. Temeria. Temeria's population is not exclusively human. It also includes dwarves, elves, gnomes, and dryads. After the devastating war with Nilfgaard, many areas are haunted by monsters, which have hitherto not constituted a serious threat. I'm going to start that again. Temeria's population is not exclusively human, so it includes dwarves, elves, gnomes, and dryads. After the devastating war with Nilfgaard, many areas are haunted by monsters, which have hitherto I'm not saying that right, not constituted a serious threat, while the realm's roads are made unsafe by outlaws and bandits, as a result of which profession is once again in demand, but people continue to treat witchers with caution and disdain, and call them mutants and freaks. The Kingdom of Temeria has silver lilies on a black background as its emblem. This powerful country has gained ever more influence in recent years under the wise rule of King Foltest. Across the Pontar River, the kingdom borders Rodonia. To the south and east, it's hemmed in by mountain ranges, including Mahakam, the mainstay of dwarves and gnomes, past which lies the lands of Lyria and Adrian. The kingdom of Tamaria is Vizima. The capital of Tamaria is Vizima, lying on the shore of Lake Vizima. The second largest city is Maribor. Tamaria mints its own coin, the Oran. The most widespread religions are the cult of Melitele and the belief in the eternal fire. Tamaria is home to the headquarters and commanderies of the Order of the Flaming Rose. Temple Quarter. The Temple Quarter of Vizima is strangely reminiscent of a quarrelsome, dirty prostitute, who despite her disagreeable appearance and personality, remains somehow alluring. This may be because of the uncomplicated, illicit entertainment it offers, always a temptation. Beggars, shady characters, scowling poor folk, frustrated non-humans, and of course, ladies, occupy every corner. Recently, Vizima's temple quarter was cut off from the rest of the world by the threat of an epidemic. The few city guard patrols that come here try not to venture too far into the quarter's dark alleys, where brutal deeds take place every night. At the centre of Vizima's temple quarter stands St. Libioda's Hospital, the only place of solace for the poor and plague victims. Alongside the hospital stand the quarters at the head of the Order of the Flaming Rose, which tries to combat local crime. I'm going to stumbling and stuttering here. Due to tiredness, it has probably gone 4 by now. Yeah, it's 20 past 4. I've been reading this for over half an hour. There really is one haven of law and order in the temple quarter of Vizima. It is the cloister, the seat of the Order of the Flaming Rose. Crimson banners embroidered with a rose hang before the entrance. Only authorized personnel can enter. Inquiries should be directed to Siegfried, whose office is in one of the buildings belonging to the Order. The outskirts. Like any large city, Vizima also has its outskirts. Near the city walls stand the houses of townspeople who could not afford to live in the city or could not stand the stench of its gutters. A little further out, among the fields and meadows, peasants have their thatched roofed homes. Unfortunately, the hard times have left its mark on the outskirts. Many houses are vacant, the owners killed in the war, slain by monsters, or taken by the plague which ravages the area. Zarakandia. Zarakandia is a mysterious land in the far south. The northern kingdoms have very little to do with that realm. A lot is known about Zarakandia. The climate is hot, exotic animals roam the lands, and its inhabitants worship of dragons. Furthermore, Zarakandia is famous for its alchemists, who specialize in pyrotechnics, for its tattooed warrior women, who are skilled in the use of sabers. And there's also the glossary. I read that, read characters, read locations. Wait, no, there's one more. Cockatrice. Cockatrice is I won't be reading this stuff, I'll just be reading the flavor. Cockatrices are born of eggs laid by roosters consorting with other roosters. The egg must be incubated for 44 days by a toad, which is devoured by the beast as soon as it hatches. Cockatrice hates everything that lives so fiercely that its glance turns the living to stone. Only a bold adventurer with a mirror can deflect its deadly gaze and defeat the cockatrice. So yeah, this Goblins is wrong. Cockatrice can't do that. They have poison and a sharp beak. So that little bit of flavor is wrong, meaning that's just because someone has, say, one of the plant things outside their house doesn't mean that a murder was committed there. Unless Siegfried was wrong, but I don't think he is. He seems to know his stuff. Owl ghouls are ghouls which have been devouring corpses for so many years that human flesh becomes irresistible, begin to prey on the living. They seem to live. They're seen to live in crypts and on the battlefields, frequently surrounded by ghouls. Simple folk do not notice the difference between these two types of scavengers, unlike witchers who know that the owl ghoul is a more aggressive and challenging opponent. Basilisk. Simple people call the basilisk the king of the Zarakandian desert, often mistaken for a cockatrice. They claim that the beast is filled with such hatred towards all living things that even its breath is venomous, and its glance turns the unwary to stone. In fairy tales, the only certain way to kill a basilisk is by holding a mirror in front of its eyes to divert its deadly gaze. witches reply that it's far better to smash the mirror on the creature's head. Cremator. Cremators are rare. They're found on battlefields and cemeteries just like other necrophages. Much has been written about ghouls and graveers since they are encountered by common people in the times of war or in cemeteries. Cremators are rare, but they appear in necropolis. When they appear in necropolises, they take it over. All ghouls respect them and must bow to them. Devourer. They basically, to me, Devourers look like remember the witch from Looney Tunes? A naked one of her. A naked, insane version of her. I believe she's a greenish tinge, so a greyish tinge, but basically a slightly altered Looney Tune witch. They don't appear in later ones. I believe there is a Devourer in Witcher 3, but it looks a lot different. Which is a little annoying to me. You'd think if there's monsters cropping up like Devourers and co, that they would still be there even in later iterations. They wouldn't be getting removed. Monsters would only be added. But at the same time, maybe it's just simply a case that they've been killed off in that area. That they've been driven extinct. I have no idea. Devourers are often called night witches because they resemble ugly women and are famous for their witch-like viciousness. These creatures gorge themselves on human flesh. Although they willingly eat carcasses, above all they crave flesh that is fresh and warm. Devourers hunt after dark in groups that peasants refer to as scabbats. Sabbats. Sabbats, not scabbats. They like to deceive their victims and torture them, but there is no truth to the tales of their midnight fights on broomsticks and their gingerbread houses. Night witches. There was a group of Soviet pilots, all women, nicknamed by the Germans night witches because the sounds of their planes made them think of witches on their brooms. The women used to fly for War II out-fashioned planes that they would turn the engines off of when they were approaching their target, and they would glide and drop the explosives then. I don't know how effective they were, but they did get a song, like how good they were and whatnot. You know, for all I know, they're simply propaganda unit. But that's how little I know about them. Sabaton did do a song about them, so in their Heroes album, so they presumably were somewhat effective. Like as an example, what else was in the Heroes album, they did a song about the most decorated American soldier. He served in World War II and a few wars after, before dying in a plane crash out of war. He was a big proponent of, well, he talked a lot about veterans and PTSD. They did a song on him. One story I remember is, and they actually in their music video did have a video of it. He starred in his own biography. They did a movie of it. Maybe it was autobiography, but yeah, they did a movie of his story, and in it he jumps onto a tank that's on fire to use its gun. And he had other stories. Apparently in the movie and whatnot, they had to turn down what he did. Well, I remember a friend was saying this, they had to turn it down because he was too much of a badass. Like, he did some daring things during the war that people just wouldn't believe. Kind of thing. And beyond that, they also did one about cobras fumantes, smoking snakes. There was a saying in Brazil during World War II. A snake would sooner learn to smoke than the Brazilian Expeditionary Force would see the front lines. When the Brazilian Expeditionary Force finally did see the front lines, a part of it, some portion of it, I don't know, was a simple squad, was it all of it, I have no idea, but some group within it, if not itself, called itself Cobras Fumantes, smoking snakes. And within that, 3 of them was separated and outnumbered by German forces. I think it was German, it was Axis forces anyway. They were outnumbered by them. The 3 of them didn't surrender, they went out fighting. And they impressed their enemies so much that they were buried, with the enemies writing on the cross or grave marker, "Here lies 3 Brazilian heroes." And you know you must be a badass when you get your enemies to respect you and declare you dad. Presuming they meant it sincerely rather than, oh yeah, here lies 3 bazillion heroes, yeah, real fucking 3 stooges kind of way. Presuming they mean it sincerely. Seriously, go look that stuff up, it's very interesting. I'm getting very tired and a little lightheaded. Hellhound. The Hellhound, referred to as the Beast, is a creature of the underworld, a spectre that assumes the form of a vicious hound and tirelessly stalks its victims when it finds their trail. Peasants believe that the Hellhound embodies the vengeance of the gods, who send the Beast to punish humans for their wickedness. Night Rate. The eye thing there is creepy. From the distance, it makes me think of mouths for her eyes, and it's just stitch closed. Night wraiths are born of moonlight, wind, and the earth cooling after the heat of the day. They rise above the ground and whirl in a mad dance, which cannot be seen by any mortal. If caught peeping, the mortal is blinded by moonlight, then taken into the circle, forced to dance until he expires, at times becoming a night wraith himself. Noon wraith. Noon wraiths are born at high noon out of heat, sadness, and the sweat of plowmen. In the hot air above the fields, they gather to dance madly, creating air vortexes. But spectres dislike being watched. Those who peep are forced to dance with them. Noon wraiths stop their dance when the sun goes down, once the abducted mortals long dead from fear and exhaustion. Aren't they lovely? Royal Wyvern. The female Royal Wyvern is smaller, but more cunning and venomous than her male counterpart. She can be aggressive towards both male and other females. She is a perfect example of how gender relations among humans have their source in the animal world. This is altogether not surprising. Master Dorgray against the institution of marriage. That actually reminds me, people keep talking about this online, keep making nods to it. Animals have their, dogs, cats, so on and so forth, have their own mating rituals. And being that humans are animals, we apparently do too. Men and women compete in their own ways for mates. Of course, we also have to keep in mind we're human, so I'm not particularly a fan of broad strokes because they can be inaccurate. But just taking them as a broad stroke and nothing more, it can be interesting. It's just too many people take the broad strokes as fact. You must be this way, and it can't be any other. Gender determinism irritates me, because it denies humanity. If you're proclaiming that you must be one way, or you're wrong, as how to be, oh, you don't fight for your mates by slapping other guys in the face with a dick, then you're not a real man. That kind of bogs. You're being a retard, as far as I'm concerned. Of course, that is an exaggeration. I can't remember what they were. No one ever gave examples of the male one. The female one was shitting on romantic competitors, kind of thing. And just being generally hostile to them. No one ever really gave a detailed account of it. I'm on Twitter. It's hard to be detailed. And part of me is a little unsure on it, but at the same time, we are animals. It would make sense if we have some little remnants left over from our heritage, you know? We may be human, but we're still animals. And it would make logical sense for there to be remnants of that heritage, left over, I guess. So, yeah. There's also people I've found quite against marriage. Me, I don't give a shit. I'm actually a minister. I don't have the documents to perform a marriage, but I can get them easy enough. Though I don't know if Ireland recognizes the Universal Life Church. If you go there, you can sign up. It takes like 5 minutes. And they take anyone. They're a Christian group, but we're all children of the universe kind of bogs, and they accept anyone. Atheist like me, Muslim, Jewish, Buddhist, Jewish person, Buddhist, Shinto person thing. any faith they accept, they don't give a shit. They're quite, I want to use the phrase mercenary in their thing, but I'm not sure if that's quite right. I think I just want to use it. But they're quite accepting. And, like I said, they provide the documentation you need, but not everywhere acknowledges them. So if you want to do it somewhere, you should double check that you can actually do it there. You'll have to check into local laws and whatnot. Like I would imagine in America, it would vary state to state. I don't know how Ireland would view it. I'll read the details on this. The wild hunt appears in the sky as a harbinger of war and other misfortunes. Some believe it is simply a magical phenomenon, not a horde of spectres. Elven sources refer to it as the Red Riders. It appears to happen once a month. No information is available about fighting the wild hunt. Warriors of the wild hunt do not have to fight. They inspire such terror that people cower after a mere glimpse. There are known instances of abductions by the wild hunt. Vapors of the hunt are given as for alchemy. The wild hunt is a horde of spectres that roam the skies during storms and is an omen of disaster. The appearance of the wild hunt foreshadows war and woe, much as a comet does. The spectral wild hunt sometimes appears in the nightmares of those cursed or those touched by destiny. Wraith. If you want to get rid of a wraith, you must find its body. Try searching on unhallowed ground, or in the cemetery, or in the corner of the cemetery where outlaws are buried. Try searching on unhallowed ground or in the corner of the cemetery where outlaws are buried. When you dig up the corpse, you'll find that it is not rotten, and there is blood on its lips. Pierce the corpse with an aspen stake, cut off the head, place it between the corpse's legs. Then move the jaws up and down and giggle all the while like a schoolchild. To make certain that the wraith will never return, set the corpse on fire. One false step will mean your demise. Wyvern. Wyverns are unlucky to be frequently mistaken for dragons. Seeing a reptile approaching a flock of sheep, panic. They expect it to breathe fire, massacre everyone, and abduct the local virgins. While it is true that wyverns hunt sheep, they neither breed fire nor waste the whole villages, and they are completely indifferent to virgins. I love that bit of description. In fact, I'm going to take a picture of it right here. Also, I can no longer swipe up on my phone. I was mentioning how the click button doesn't work. I can no longer swipe up on the phone when I'm in it. Only when I'm on the desktop does it work. Well, on the lock screen doesn't work. When I'm in it, it doesn't work. Christ. If I'm in the camera, it doesn't work now either. Literally only lock screen works. It's a fucking nuisance. But yeah, I'm going to take a picture of that when I can. So, I sincerely hope you've enjoyed this, folks. I'll be back. I am gonna wrap this up now because it's gone 4:30. It's actually nearly 20 to 3 minutes to. So I sincerely hope you've enjoyed this. And like I said, I'll be back soon to record more. And I hope you'll be there to join me for it. I'll take the picture another time. I'll have the space. And I sincerely hope you'll be there to join me for it. And hopefully, despite the random lagging and chugging, the videos have not been tampered with at all by that. I would dreadfully hate for the sound to have been affected in any regard, because that'll be a fucking pain in the rear end to go fix. Especially considering I probably won't know it until ye said it. As another little thing, if there is ever an issue with one of my videos, please, audio-wise, please let me know. I'll do what I can to fix it. I'm sure you don't need telling. I'm sure you'll say it anyway. Tell me anyway. But it's good to know. It's good to say it. Just get it out there. So I sincerely hope you enjoy this, and I'll be back soon to record more. And I do hope you'll join me for it. Before I go, I am going to save, because if I don't save, I may very well forget. So, on that note, I will have to love you and leave you. I'll see you next time. Adios, amigos!